It might surprise you that in the vast collection of built-in functions that you find in JavaScript, there are some functions that allow you to actually change the character or the formatting of text. One such function is called toUpperCase. Now, just like with the index of function, the way you use toUpperCase is to first start off by creating a piece of text, a string. Remember, text is a string in JavaScript, same thing. Think string of text. And what you want to do is you create your string variable, you give it a value, so I'm just going to put hello, and then you use the function on that particular variable, just like we did with index of. You see, string dot, that's the operator, the dot operator, toUpperCase. So we're basically saying use toUpperCase on the string variable. Pretty cool, right? So to see it in action, let's use the console again. Of course, if you don't have Firebug, you can use alert. I gotta put .log. And now, what happens if we just put in string, right? Because here, you'd think that we change the text to uppercase, right? Because we add the toUpperCase function to it. See, let's just see what happens when we launch it here. As you can see, it's actually lowercase. So it gives us a little bit of insight, again, about functions in JavaScript. For this to work properly, we would have to store or save, or change rather, the value of strings. So it says when we're applying toUpperCase, in this instance, we are changing this to uppercase, but because we don't explicitly tell JavaScript to change the variable string to equal the result of this function to uppercase, it doesn't change. It reverts back to the original. I hope this makes sense. If it doesn't, don't worry. In time, this type of stuff will sink in. Let's take a look at how this would work if we actually just added toUpperCase right in here. I'm going to put the dot in. All right. So string dot toUpperCase. Now this will work. Watch. See how it went to all uppercase? Pretty cool, right? Again, because this time we're saying log out the output of toUpperCase right away. If we wanted to make this change permanent, what you would do is you would go string. So we're saying, okay, take the string variable that we declared up here and change it to equal whatever toUpperCase outputs, right? And then we say console just log out variable string, and it should look as we suspect. See, we get all uppercase. So I hope that makes sense. So let me just go over this again so you understand. Now, before I go on, actually, let me just point out the reason we're going through some of these functions is I'm trying to introduce you to different aspects of how functions work in JavaScript. I don't expect you to absorb everything now, but the more you use different functions, the built-in functions especially, the more you're going to understand how functions work generally. For instance, we learned about this dot operator, and we learned how we appended the function name to a particular variable we wanted the function to operate on, to do its stuff on, like we did with index of, now toUpperCase. We've learned that pattern. The more you see patterns in how functions work, the easier it's going to be for you to understand. I hope this makes sense. So anyway, let's quickly go over this. So we got varString equals hello. So now we say string dot toUpperCase. So that applies, basically that tells JavaScript that we want to apply the uppercase function to the string. We want uppercase to do whatever it does. In this case, it changes all the text to uppercase. We want it to do it to string. Now, for this to be permanent, though, we needed to specifically tell JavaScript that we want to change the var string to have the from being this to being this, right? Remember how JavaScript processes from the top down? You remember how I said that whatever happens underneath will replace whatever happened on top? See, I could go like this. I could go string. Let's now say, you know what? String is no longer says hello. means hello. It just means it just has the value of great now in there. So let's see what it looks like. See, great. So all this stuff that we did here has now been overwritten by this stuff here. So I hope this makes sense. Now we could do this again. We could go, okay, string great, string, the var string. Let's now send that to uppercase now. So we've declared it here, given it a value of hello, declared a variable. We said make it uppercase, but we didn't tell it to stick, so nothing happened, right? This only does it instantly, and then next line it goes back to its normal self, right? So let's now explicitly tell JavaScript that we want to change string to be uppercase, right? So fine, and then that worked, of course, we saw that before. So now we say, okay, you know what? Let's change string to have the value of great, and which replaces this, right? So now let's make the text great rather. Let's make it uppercase. Let's take a look at it, what it looks like now. All uppercase. So I hope that running through the different functions, in this case uppercase and before index of, I hope it's giving you a little bit better of an idea of how functions can be used, how they can interact with each other, and how functions are worked with within the context of your JavaScript. Again, if this stuff is hazy, don't worry, we'll go over more of this kind of JavaScript functionality and functions and how they work and the nuances of them later on, especially when we get into creating our own functions, where we're going to learn how to build things from scratch, which will really open your eyes to things. To close off this video, I just wanted to comment on and remind you about case sensitivity in JavaScript. When I'm talking about case, I'm talking about, whether something is lowercase or uppercase. And the point to take away is that JavaScript is a case-sensitive language. So for instance, we got our functions called toUpperCase. Now, this is a built-in function in JavaScript, and the way it's written now, where you got the upper U and the upper C, that's a proper way of writing the function. Now, if you go like this, as far as JavaScript is concerned, it's not the same thing. It's not the function all of a sudden. Now, you notice I'm using Dreamweaver CS4 here to write the code. So Dreamweaver is giving us a little tooltip here to tell us that, you see it's no longer green as it was. That tells us basically that all of a sudden we're not, Dreamweaver recognizes that we're no longer actually using the real toUpperCase function because it's not being actually spelled properly. Capital U is different from lower u. So let's review that. Watch. So you see in the console, it gives us an error here and tells us, here's the error. toUpperCase is not a function. That's because the U, as far as JavaScript is concerned, lowercase u and uppercase u are two totally different things. It might as well be A or letter 1 in there. But as soon as I change it to uppercase U and refresh, everything works fine. So what you got to take away, again, is case sensitivity is something that you have to recognize in JavaScript. And it's actually a source of a lot of errors for people, especially in the beginning when you're first writing code and you're first trying to develop those nerd coding eyes, those programming eyes. And a lot of times people will be ignoring case like that, and they'll be running into errors wondering, why am I getting these errors? Why isn't this working? And a lot of times it could be a question of case. And this applies to variables, of course. This is not the same. Oops. This is not the same as this. There we go. So keep that in mind. Case sensitivity in JavaScript is an issue, and it's something you just have to pay attention to.